happy holidays. We're gonna do the tag version of new makeup releases today. This is a video created by video idea created by Angelica Nyqvist. And in this video, we're gonna go over a series of questions or tags. I'm also gonna do my makeup while we're talking, again, with this beautiful palette because I need to use it more often. And let's get started. I purchased this Hydro Grip Primer from Sephora yesterday because I have 4,000 something points that I've accumulated over the years, and they told me if I don't buy something, I'm gonna lose them. So I bought this and I used 500 points for $10 off. Now you can do that. Beauties, I was gonna lose it because I did not buy anything from Sephora in the past year, and I feel so proud of myself for that. But let's get started. The first question is, what was the mainstream release that lived up to the hype? Now, obviously, I talk more about indie space. I don't really talk about mainstream space. I'm going to merge this question with the second question, which is what release lived up to the hype in the indie space, and just give one answer to both of those questions. On the indie side, I think pretty much anything that released from Blend Bunny was good. I haven't had a bad experience with Blend Bunny yet, and I've tried a whole lot of different things from her. I think Sugar and Grunge definitely lived up to the hype. I think in the indie space, there was a whole lot of positive opinions of Blend Bunny, and I think it's very merited. I really like the quality of the different eyeshadow palettes I've used of hers, and I think I've pretty much used most of them. I don't have her last palette, but all the other ones I think I have. Even a few that are discontinued at this point, and I think she has gradually even gotten better. Another thing that I think lived up to the hype, again, I don't have every single release from this brand, but it's cosmic brushes. So I purchased Muse and I purchased Delicious Delights. And if you all remember, last year I did a review of Serenity. I gave it good reviews. I think it was sort of the palette of the year, and I continue to really like the brand. Now, I decided against buying her last shadow palette because I'm kind of preparing myself for a no buy, and also I have a lot of those colors. I know a lot of people have ranked that palette pretty high, and I'm wondering if the FOMO is going to catch up with me. As long as I can last till the end of the year, I'm good, because I'm going on a no buy early next year. Anything I used from that brand has been good, has lived up to the hype. Another thing, or generally another brand that I think is hyped a lot in the indie space, and I think has lived up to the hype, is Clionadh. There's this general impression that Clionadh has the best multichromes, or the best quality multichromes in the market. And beauties, you all know how I feel about Clionadh. I completely agree with that mentality. So for me, it has totally lived up to the hype. Another brand who had a few releases, I think they were kind of hyped in the space, and I think they were all very good, is Clionadh. I really like the brand, and I bought, I think, most of the stuff that they released this year, from the singles to the palettes, and they have lived up to the hype. I really like their quality. Even I bought 2 of their palettes that are a little bit less up my alley because they're a little bit more neutral leaning. But you know, there are times when I feel like I should also experiment a little more, which is part of the reason why I decided to pick those palettes up. Also, beauties, I was actually in Australia when I picked one of Clionadh's palettes up, and I was like, it's gonna be cheaper for it to get to me. Yes, I said it. I travel a lot. I don't talk about it very frequently in my channel, but the reason I'm saying that is because, you know, Clionadh is an Australian brand. I was there and I was like, okay, bring it on. I'm gonna buy something while I'm here. You know, you guys release something, I want to try it. And I think they all lived up to the hype for me. Third question says, what release did not live up to the hype? Beauties, I was wondering if I should use the palette that I'm going to talk about that I used that did not live up to the hype in this video. But the palette that did not live up to the hype for me was Melt's collab with Nightmare Before Christmas. I bought the first one, Halloween Town collab. I bought the whole thing, and you know, there were hits and misses here and there, but what I didn't like was the palette, which is unfortunate. It just was not very good. I mean, and I know there are a lot of people who love Melt. It just doesn't work for me, which was part of the reason why I did not pick anything up from Bailey Asarian's release. Also, unfortunately, that release happened at the time when everything else was releasing, although I think that release would have been much more up my alley, both in terms of the color story of the palette and the fact that it was an all matte palette. I'm kind of getting into all matte stuff. Now, beauties, I do have a video of the worst products that I tried in the indie space, best and worst, and I talk about the 5 worst products that I worked with this year. That video is going to show up on your screen, and it's also going to be tagged in the description box below if you're curious to watch that. But separate from the products I talk about in that video, a lot of people talk about the Xenon palette. I personally didn't try the Xenon palette when I saw the palette because I am at a point of wanting to try something from Natasha Denona. The first thing that went through my head is this palette could have been reduced to like 9 pans. And frankly, I recently purchased Smoke Show from ColourPop, and is it Smoke Show or is it Blowing Smokes? Whatever that palette is called these days. And I still haven't even used that, so I wouldn't have gone to buy another palette that looks like 50 Shades of Grey. Now, somebody told me that that palette doesn't have just gray colors, but it also has some blues in it. The photos don't show that, which is another marketing problem. But in general, I feel like things that come out from Natasha Denona are overhyped. Anytime I start hearing people say, use my discount code, here's my discount code, here's my affiliate codes, the first thing that I think about is this an honest review? Or are people just wanting me to buy something expensive so that they can get some kickback? And although I constantly tell you that you should use someone's code in my to buy or not to buy videos, in my new makeup releases videos, that you should use someone's code so that you're not paying full price for items. You should only use someone's code if you really want something. But what I'm seeing out there is people trying to sell us things and creating this positive hype around things that we might not really need. So I decided I just don't want to buy any of it. The fourth question is about curveballs of this year. A few curveballs in the indie space. The first one for me was Luxie Beauty completely coming back with amazing eyeshadows. And beauties, I'm gonna do a video swatching some very, very high quality Luxie singles for you all. Stay tuned for that. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed yet, but you're interested in those kinds of swatch videos, because Luxie Beauty used to be a brand where, you know, they were cheap, but everybody was like, it's unclear what you're going to get, because a lot of times swatches you see on the website are not representative of what you're going to actually get. But they have kind of turned around, and now they're doing some very, very exciting stuff. They still have some stuff in their inventory that are just like, eh. If you watch my 5 best 5 worst video of this year, you know what I'm talking about. But on top of that, they definitely have things for $3 or $2 that other brands sell for $15. Yes, beauties. So definitely Luxie, good for you. I'm rooting for you, and I'm watching you next year, because I'm just planning on going on no buys and more conscious money spending next year. Another thing was Glamlight's collab with all the horror movies. And the reason that's a curveball is that when I think about makeup, I don't think of gory things. Like, makeup is about beauty. And seeing Glamlight go the route of collabing with Chucky, which started as far back as Valentine's Day. I mean, just collabing with Chucky for Valentine's, I feel like was a curveball itself. It was something unexpected. And I actually like that, because I feel like Valentine's Day is overdone. Doing rainbows and unicorns and box of chocolate and whatever is just overdone. I thought it was an interesting twist, and you know, I liked the twist that they put on it, which is part of the reason I bought the palette, although I at the time thought it's not a palette I would like. I ended up really liking the palette, and then them actually getting on that bandwagon throughout the year and releasing all collabs and with these IPs, Nightmare on Elm Street, whatever, all the other ones that they did. Another curveball for me, and I don't know if I can call this a curveball, but more or less an unexpected thing, was the fact that Beauty Bay kind of disappeared. Beauty Bay used to release multiple very exciting, colorful palettes throughout the year, and it was always talked about. Even very large influencers that in the indie space would be talking about the different palettes and so on, and I feel like they kind of just disappeared. Even their last palette that they released a few months ago that was kind of shimmery and bluey. I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about it. Although it's very appropriate for this time of the year, it's not the same kind of palette that they used to release before, even in the way it looks. So I kind of don't know what's going on. Another curveball of this year that was interesting for me was brands kind of moving away from black-based multichromes. And I started noticing that when Clionadh released the light version of their black-based jeweled multichrome series. And then Terra Moons is discontinuing a lot of the black-based multichromes. I'm sure there are other brands who are going to follow suit. It kind of makes sense because black-based multichrome is not something that's very easy to use or is a commonly worn eyeshadow because it really requires a particular aesthetic for someone to want to wear black-based multichrome on their eyes. Another curveball of this year was ColourPop not duping itself. And that was surprising. And ColourPop not releasing 200,000 palettes and other kinds of releases and having a palette a week, which was what we saw last year. And I'm wondering what's going on with ColourPop. Hopefully it's good stuff. Another thing that I liked about ColourPop's releases this year was Aurora Struck, that they released early in January. And I thought that totally set the tone of ColourPop thinking about a whole new year with a different mentality. And that was very unexpected, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do next year. Okay, beauties, we're kind of already halfway through. So before I just completely do this video without doing my look, let me get into it. I want to do something a bit more neutrally, so let's go into mold. And we are going to put this beautiful color kind of here. What are some of the Snoozefests of this year? Some of the releases from ColourPop, I really had better hopes for the second version of Sailor Moon. And I was like, what is this? This is more bland than the first version. Well, maybe it wasn't more bland than the first version, but it was not exciting. I was looking for something more colorful. Another release from ColourPop that was just like, you could just live without this release was Cloud 9. Maybe I could call Beauty Bay's last release kind of a Snoozefest. Another Snoozefest of the year was releases from Kaleidos. I used to buy things from Kaleidos. In fact, I have a lot of their old stuff. If you watched my declutter video, you know. And anything they released in the past like year and a half is just super neutral, super boring, uninteresting. I have not heard the best reviews either from people who do honest reviews. I don't know what's going on over there at Kaleidos, but I'm hoping we're going to see more exciting things from Kaleidos next year. As I mentioned, it's going to be a neutral look, so let's go into hot cocoa. I did have some disappointments. Like, for example, I think the Gothic palette from Cosmic Brushes could have been more exciting. Can I call it a Snoozefest? I don't think so. But I had better expectations of Cosmic Brushes on that release. Question number 6, what were the unsung heroes of 2023? So beauties, I have already talked about some of the palettes that I really thought were amazing this year in my video. There's a couple of palettes that I'm going to regurgitate here. One of them is Rogue from Fantasy Cosmetica. That palette was amazing. Another one was Gourmand Girls, the collab with Siria Soto. I think that palette was great and the quality was amazing. I think the color story is very nice. I also think it's super Valentine's Day, and I know at some point they put it on a sale. It also supports breast cancer. I don't know if any money goes to breast cancer or anything like that, but I think the cause was very nice, and the fact that they did that kind of a collab was just very nice. Look at this pigmentation. I mean, another palette that I really liked was Dia Varone, the Moth and the Moon palette. I'm probably gonna do maybe another look in this channel with that palette because I definitely think that palette is amazing quality, and I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about it, and the color story is also very fun. There are a few other things that I talked about in my best and worst of 2023 that I have linked below. You should watch that video if you want to know more about some of the other products that I tried that I really liked this year. Okay, I'm loving this look. Let's use the same brown under my lower lash line. So the next question asks, what's the best holiday release? I kind of modify it to mean what's the best seasonal release. So, you know, it might not be holiday as in end of the year, Christmas time kind of release. So one of the things that I really liked, I already mentioned it, was the Chucky releasing for Valentine's Day. As I said, I thought it was a very interesting twist. I know a lot of people didn't like that because they thought it's a gory palette and Chucky's ugly. Totally understand that, but I thought it was an interesting and innovative twist. And the palette was great. Another thing that I thought was kind of cute was ColourPop bringing back Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And what I thought was amazing about this was ColourPop not trying to over commercialize holidays by releasing yet another thing that now people feel like they need to add to their collection, but releasing something that they had released before so that people who spent 2 years wondering why I couldn't get my hands on this now had a chance to pick it up. And the people who already had the palette be like, oh, that palette, I have it. Let me whip it out and use it. That's a great palette. You know, and I think that's great. More brands should do that. And with that, BH, bring back this palette. Okay, beauties, I forgot to mention this as part of the releases that did not live up to the hype. And one of them was Adept's Mystery Box. I have a whole video about Adept's Mystery Box, so I'm not going to repeat everything I said there. I just thought the mystery box was overpriced. And the stuff that was in it was not as exciting. I also just realized that this was another curveball of this year. Jaclyn Hill's brands closing down. So Cozy and Jaclyn Roxanne closing down. Which means she doesn't really have any business at this point, right? Because Jaclyn Cosmetics was owned by Morphe. Those were surprising to me, and those are still surprising to me. I was just not expecting that. Another holiday release that I really, really liked, obviously, were the 2 advent calendars from Clionadh. I have unboxings in this channel. I've done swatches of the eyeshadows, etc. I've also periodically worn the nail colors in different videos. Definitely think that was amazing. Clionadh should do this every year. Please, Clionadh, do it every year. Another couple of releases that I thought were so season appropriate. One was Aura Struck from ColourPop. Such a nice palette. A little bit unexpected from ColourPop, who was at that point in time only releasing neutral stuff. And another one was Berry Icy from Simply Posh. Again, that released in January, February timeframe, and I thought that was a great time of the year for releasing that kind of a color story, super wintry, completely appropriate for the time. Actually, I also liked Simply Posh's other one, Citrus Punch. I thought that was also very season appropriate. And beauties, I have videos with both of those palettes in this channel. Not that it matters though. I don't know if you can buy those palettes anymore, but great palettes they were. Okay, I'm now going to just, with this first brush, quickly blend this lower lash line. Just look at this pigmentation, everybody. Why did BH Cosmetics go out of business? Beauties, why BH Cosmetics went out of business was not just a curveball of last year. It's a curveball that had transcended time. I'm still wondering about this because BH Cosmetics was being so amazing. Although maybe they were just spending so much money on developing super high quality products and they were selling it for cheap. So they actually ended up not making profits. I don't know, just a speculation, but I'm still wondering about that. Okay, everybody, let's use something else from BH. This is their Base Boost. This one also frequently goes on sale on their website for like $1 to $2. And it's a pretty good glue, eyeshadow glue. I'm putting this over here. And let's go into Spicy, this super beautiful gold that is going to go over that. I think this look is super office appropriate. I think this look can be worn in a holiday party. I think this look can be worn even during the fall. And this is the completed eye look. Our next question is about the collabs of this year. So what were the best collabs this year? And beauties, these were my best collabs from this year, or the best collabs that I tried. This is the Shine by ST collab with Bizarro Volta and M. Jones 5018 called Duality Collection, the second part. They came out with the first part last year. I have that part as well. When these came out earlier in the year, I was like, I have to have this. These were the Dusk and the Dawn palettes, super beautiful, and I keep reaching for these. I put a little bit of this Minuteman from ColourPop lip liner, and then also Floor, which is an old ColourPop lipstick on my lips. I love it. It's so orange and beautiful, and it totally goes with the rest of the look. I have made a pact that this year I'm going to be using more of my lip stuff because I have a lot of lip stuff, and a lot of them I didn't even know I had until I did a declutter video today. Wait around for it to come up. It's going to come up very soon if you're interested in that kind of stuff. And then Beauties, the second item that I like to put in this category because, you know, it's kind of a collab, but not really, is Angelica Beauties brushes. You all know I had purchased the OG before, and I recently also bought the extension. And I really enjoyed using the OG 5, and I'm also looking forward to using the extension. So definitely think this was one of the good releases of this year that I wanted to talk about. Now, it's not a collab, but it kind of is, because there's no question here about influencer brands. I also put a little bit of Go Big or Go Home. I don't know what I did with the mascara, but the mascara from KVD Beauty on my lashes. The last question, Beauties, is what are my predictions for 2024? I think there's going to be a lot more holochromes, for example, coming out. I had predicted that they're going to be coming back this year, and they ended up coming back, and everybody's now doing them. They're even showing up in palettes. There are even palettes where there's a lot of holochromes. And I think the trend with now doing dark multichromes but without the black base is going to continue. Also, another thing that started this year, but I think definitely is going to continue, is brands going into, and we're talking about indie brands, obviously, going into new categories of products. So brands that only used to do eyeshadow palettes are now doing singles. They might even do magnetic palettes. Now they might even do nail lacquers like Clionadh or Shroud. This might even expand beyond just makeup related items, as we've seen some with Odin's Eye, with jewelry. We have seen it with Fantasy Cosmetica, with perfumes. I think the beauty part of this space is a little oversaturated, and by offering these additional things, brands are trying to differentiate themselves, and they're going to continue doing that. Another thing is that, particularly in the indie community, brands in general are trying to use micro and nano influencers in influencing people to do more shopping, which brings the whole overflow of affiliate marketing and discount codes and non-affiliate codes into the picture. And I think that's going to just continue happening, and we're going to see even way more of it. Now, there is obviously nothing wrong with influencers telling you that they have a discount code for some product or some affiliate with some brands, obviously, as long as they're disclosing it because they legally have to. But the point where this becomes a problem is where influencers try to get you to buy things that you don't need, that you should not buy, and you already have. Maybe I'm getting a little bit off topic on this, but this is very important. You should never buy something you don't need just because an influencer is telling you it's an amazing product and that they have a discount code. Because do I even need to say? I predict that we're going to continue seeing certain behaviors from brands that only we can control. Some of those behaviors include brands, particularly in the indie space, that send a lot of free makeup to different influencers to get positive reviews. And the truth is that none of us as consumers are going to know what the contract that influencer has with the brand says. So there is a possibility that the influencer, particularly if they're smaller influencers, they have to say positive things, which then means we as end consumers really need to be very smart in where our money is going. Another trend that I'm seeing is that these brands are sending influencers PR. They probably do certain batch production. They send it to the influencers, and then by the time it gets to the people who actually want to order the product, we all have to go on pre-orders. And that is just unfair to the consumer to have to wait months to receive a product. But I think people are going to keep doing that for as long as us as end users are willing to go into the pre-order because so-and-so told me I really need that palette. Beauties, I have done a lot of pre-orders this year, and a lot of times by the time I received the pre-order, I was like, I actually don't really want this palette. And I felt like I just jumped on some hype at some point. Another thing I think we are going to see more of is price hikes. So price of everything is going up. We already know inflation is up, interest rates are up, and so are the price of eyeshadow palettes and other products. But the thing is, has your salary gone up? Prices can't go up as long as there's nobody who's willing to buy that item at that price. Which then means the reason brands are getting away with pricing things so high is because you and me end up buying them. If we say, you know what, $80 eyeshadow palette is unacceptable, I'm not buying that, then brands need to think about something else to do. A few other things that I think are going to be some strategies brands are going to use to sell more stuff include doing more mystery boxes, maybe even very well curated mystery boxes, perhaps more influencer collabs. Another thing is going to be having back-to-back releases, which we have already started seeing in the second half of this year from brands. And when I see that, it makes me disincentivized from picking something up because I know by the time I receive it, that brand might be on the third release after this product that I ordered. Okay, beauties, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Also, I would love to hear from you in the comments below your predictions for indie makeup space next year. I love you all. Have an amazing day. Happy holidays. And until next time, bye.